Oh, did you see what happened today? Don't worry, we have it for you. Dramatic testimony from a crime expert who says the deaths of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh had to be at the hands of two shooters, not one. First question, why? Answer.
My opinion is the totality of the evidence is more suggestive of a two-shooter scenario. In Paul's scenario, we know where the shooter of the shotgun had to be, and that would have been orientated really directly over Paul's head. You can see outside and even in throughout the feet area in multiple and many large pieces of skull. We also saw large amounts of tissue that were projected all the way up onto the ceiling. I think minimally, that shooter is getting covered with this material, getting more or less the shock wave of that effect, and more than likely getting hit with at least something that could have done injury. Therefore, I think that particular shooter, for a brief period of time, is kind of out of this. It's not as if they can instantaneously suffer that, drop the shotgun, run to wherever the the blackout rifle is, pick that up, and then in any kind of a reasonable time period engage in a meaningful assault.
I never understood why, in the defense, they didn't make more of the fact that there were likely two weapons. Anyway, was that believable to you? Will it be to the jury? Now remember, the prosecution gets another bite at this, okay? They get rebuttal. Could even be the judge instructs sir rebuttal, but we'll see. The prosecution is coming back. Can they deal with this? Now, the next question will be, even if that were true, and it were two, does that mean that Alex Murdaugh could not have been one of the two? Let's bring in jury consultant Richard Gabriel, Cup of Justice host and attorney Eric Bland, and high-profile trial attorney Mark Eiglarsh. Mark, I believe Dusty calls you like the better Cuomo or something like that, so I might as well start with you, although secretly I hate you.
Sure.
No, I'm kidding. It's good to see you, Mark.
Yes.
I'm happy to have you. First of all, did you find that compelling, and does it remove Alex Murdaugh from consideration?
So number one, yes, I found it compelling. Not personally, I have my very strong feelings, but as a defense lawyer, that's the best expert money can buy. Even if jurors don't even understand how he got to the conclusion, they're left with, wait, there were two shooters. That blows the state's theory out of the water. It's supposed to be just him. And for every action, there's a reaction. They understand that if he's not covered in blood, if he's not covered in brains, then it must not have been him. And there's been no testimony that that was found on him.
Mr. Gabriel, from a jury's perspective, an alternative theory like this that absents, I guess, you would suggest that, well, it was two people and it wasn't Murdaugh as one of the two. What is the calculus in terms of the impression on a jury?
Well, I think what we have to understand is that the actual experts in this case are the jurors themselves. And that's why we need to figure out, okay, who here, and I'm sure this is probably true, that any number of those jurors actually have guns, have hunted, and they themselves are going to be making a decision for themselves. Okay, if I've handled a shotgun and if I've handled another thing, what is the time, distance, and sound issue that's going to be? And this is going to lead into, obviously, the jury visit, which I know we're going to talk about, because this jury's going to figure out, okay, how would he do it if it was Murdaugh? What always happens in a jury room in a case like this is the reenactments. It may not be 12 Angry Men, but it is something where jurors are going to be sitting there going, okay, if he's got the shotgun, he's at this distance, and then he shoots, and then he's covered with stuff. Is he stunned? How does he put it down? Does he have time to get another gun and then shoot Maggie with? All of those things come into play, and it can raise some reasonable doubt about whether this guy could have done it.
And they're going to visit the crime scene. How impactful is that on a jury, Rich?
Oh, it's huge. It's really huge. When we did OJ and we did Phil Spector's case, jurors really have a sense of what the place is. And that's going to be important for a few key issues here. One has to do with, obviously, the spacing and whether it can really prove or disprove all of the experts' testimony in the case, because jurors ultimately have to make that decision for themselves. But the other thing that's going to be important is if actually Alec is up at the house, if he's up at the house as he says he is, can he hear those gunshots? If so, why doesn't he hear them? So all that distance thing, how they see the spatial relationships, whether the dogs are barking at the time, all that is something that they can have a better sense of if they're actually there at Moselle.
Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of News Nation's fact-driven coverage.